fam, when I was doing the shtick for Jimmy Dore, and the Israeli war broke out with situation after Gaza, the freedom fighters had come out, the resistance had come out and done what they did. We knew craziness was coming right after that. And the first guest I went out and got there was Norman Finkelstein. We contacted him. It was a Friday that things were going down, I believe, and we had him on that Monday show. We were able to clip up that video, get between two platforms, Rumble and YouTube, get him over 2 million views and get it out there. And it's been great seeing him go on Brianna Joy Gray, Katie Halper, and now Piers Morgan. And he actually went on Piers Morgan to debate Alan Dershowitz. And it's been a long time since he's been able to push back against Alan Dershowitz. I mean, fam, this is fascinating over here. I think the fact that, and Norman Finkelstein had told me before we had gone on the air with Jimmy Dore show, he had told me, he says, right now, I think our biggest job, I said, Norm, how do you want to go with this? I think, we should do X, Y, and Z. He goes, what I think we should do is I think we should just lay out the facts. I'm going to be very slow, very calm, very explaining, and I want people to understand the facts. We have to compartmentalize this properly. We have to let people understand that this is not just an initial action by Hamas or the resistance. This is a reaction to what's been going on for quite some time. Also, we cannot let Israel distort the language. And when they say something and they tell you who they are, we have to show you that they are saying who they are. Well, this is Norman Finkelstein laying it right out there in the open that this action that Israel took, even though they scream Hamas, 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 was still intentional and is still genocidal, and it is a war crime. Norm Finkelstein, Alan Dershowitz, let's take a listen. Oz, I'll tell you when to stop, and we'll jump in anytime. Fam, if you want to stop at any time and jump in, just put your hand up so Oz can know, and we will get right into it.
First of all, the defense minister, there will be no electricity, no food, no water, no fuel. Everything is closed. We are fighting human animals, and we are acting accordingly. Now, that was not directed at Hamas. That was directed at the entire population of Gaza. I think your listeners understand what is the consequence of denying a civilian population all water, all food, all fuel, and all electricity. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that that is a recipe for genocide. Number two, you quoted or you had on Douglas Murray, who made a distinction between what he called the deliberate targeting of civilians versus the indiscriminate targeting of civilians. Not to want to sound pedantic, but Israel's leading authority on international law is a fellow named Yoram Dinstein, who I'm sure Alan Dershowitz knows. And Mr. Dinstein, or Dr. Dinstein, he stated that there is no fundamental difference under international law between the deliberate targeting of civilians and the indiscriminate targeting of civilians. There is no substantive difference. Therefore, under international law, according to Yoram Dinstein, Israel is targeting the civilian population of Gaza. That's another indication from the get-go, not from yesterday, not from when it was revealed to President Biden, but from the get-go, Israel has been engaging in a genocidal war in Gaza. Now, the genocidal war takes various forms. Again, I'm going to cite you old quotes. So let's take Giora Eiland, who was the head of Israel's National Security Council, the equivalent of our CIA. And he said, quote, "Israel needs to create a humanitarian crisis in Gaza. Gaza will become a place where no human being can exist. Now, I'm not here to try to persuade Mr. Dershowitz or Professor Dershowitz. I am here to try to enlighten your listeners. So I would like them to cogitate, to meditate over what does it mean to say Gaza will become a place where no human beings can exist. Mr. Island, the former head of the National Security Council, went on to say, severe epidemics in the south of the Gaza Strip will bring victory closer and reduce casualties among IDF soldiers. And then there is Mr. Netanyahu, the prime minister. Not on one occasion, not from the spur of the moment, but twice in national addresses to the nation, very soberly, Mr. Netanyahu said, remember what Amalek did to you. This is a war between the sons of light and the sons of darkness. Now, as Professor Dershowitz surely knows, because he attended Hebrew school, actually, he grew up just a few blocks from me, or I should say I grew up a few blocks from him because he's older. He surely knows that in the midst of a war, in a country that is schooled in the Bible, that when you say your enemy is Amalek, then you are calling for the destruction, the killing of every man, woman, and child. So with all due regard to Mr. Dershowitz, I have to say this issue of human shielding is totally beside the point because it doesn't even come into play in this particular situation. The orders from the get-go denying food, water, electricity, and fuel to the entire civilian population, the order from the get-go to turn Gaza into a place that is not able to sustain human life, the order from the get-go in this battle between the sons of light and the sons of darkness.
Okay.
I repeat, I do not believe it requires a rocket scientist to figure out that from day one, which is to say 2 months
I get the point.
ago,
Yeah, you've made the point.
Israel has been waging a war of genocide in Gaza.
Bam.
Mm-hmm.
So your thoughts, fam? I mean, go ahead, fam.
I mean, the human shields argument has been used against Palestinian resistance for a long time, hypocritically, while Israel has been doing that. I did that on October 7th, using their own. And of course, more and more admissions and testimony is coming out from the very Israelis that said, yes, they shot at us. So I think Finkelstein makes a really good point. That doesn't come into play when you don't consider these people human, when you don't consider Palestinians human, when you don't consider them, worthy of any sort of differentiation between what they say are terrorists. And again, we have yet to see any evidence of Hamas being terrorists. And again, the West Bank does not have Hamas, and yet they are shooting and killing people also in the West Bank. And there is testimony from multiple people, mostly Palestinian journalists, of them going after and attacking Palestinians in the areas where they were told to go to, the Rafah border crossing area and south, they were told to go to. And literally they go and they get shot at. And Jeremy Wilfredo was also in the West Bank recently, and he let out multiple testimonies of these agricultural workers talking about how they've been shot at. The same thing that Eva Bartlett noted years ago. And all of that happened before October 7th. So, yeah, obviously this was a reaction to decades and decades of what Israel was doing. And that's it. Like, it's a reaction. And the fact that you can't even say that, right? You can't even say, hey, this didn't begin on October 7th. Just like, the war in Ukraine didn't begin with Russia's invasion on February 2022. It began a long time ago in 2014 and even before that. So honestly, I mean, these are very valid points, but they're also very logical points. There's nothing incredible or amazing that is being said. It's just the fact that, yeah, these are just literally facts. Here they are. And the argument you get back is, but you are anti-Semitic.
Yeah.
So
and that's why I think it's this, even though like what you're saying, 100% true, fam, this is just logic, right? When you're saying, yeah, what are you saying? Yeah. I mean, everything he's saying, it's very easy to point out what they've been talking about for quite some time, from Naftali Bennett to, I can't remember what position it was, calling people the human animals. These are my enemies. And, what I'm saying? They even have something called the Haya Doctrine, which allows them to, pretty much get away with carpet bombing, civilians. And I think at the end of the day, it's very easy to point out that if you think that the ultimate goal of the Zionist state is to make sure that all these Palestinians are displaced so they can take the land, you know what I'm saying? That's a very logical argument. That's an easy argument to get behind.
Mm-hmm.